the Vivitrol wore off, and now I'm getting high on heroin again, and I got no money left. And that was that moment for me where I sat down and I was like, I'm done. Like that was all I had in my mind. That was the best plan I could come up with, the best plan I ever had, the most well executed plan I ever put together in my life, and it did not work. And I literally thought that I had nothing left to give life, and I was just waking up every day trying to figure out a way. All right, I'll commit suicide tonight. All right, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it in the morning.
Welcome to Hope Shot Recovery. I'm Sonia. I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today, I have my friend, author, and recovery creator, Hardaway Learning. You might have seen him on TikTok. You might have seen him on Instagram. He's all over the place. Derek,
Mhm.
thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. We've been TikTok friends for a little bit now. We've been following each other. And that's the beauty of TikTok. You get to connect from all over the world. You're in Florida, I'm in Alaska, so now we're connecting through Zoom, and we're getting live on the creation, on some content creation. So I'm excited for what you got planned for us.
Yes, it's so cool. I love that we are like all the way across the continent, and yet here we are connecting for recovery. And I'm so excited to hear your story tonight. So let's just like start from the very beginning. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, so my story begins in East Anchorage, Alaska. That's where I'm from. That's where I've been born and raised. And you get these kind of ideas of Alaska from what you see on TV. You're thinking wildlife, big state, a lot of dark snow, and all those things are true. That is up here. But where I'm from, I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, which is the biggest city in Alaska. So we got the Walmart, the Starbucks, all the stuff. It's just a city, the same thing. And when you think about it, it's the most populated city. So I, I'll tell you this, and it might seem like common sense, but some people don't grasp it. Like there's poverty, there's drugs, there's crime in every single one of these cities across the nation. And Alaska is not it. It's the same for Alaska. So obviously, I'm in the addiction recovery lane. So, but my story starts here, and it's important for me to mention that because some people might, you know, get confused with the fact that, well, how is this going on in Alaska? Well, it's going on everywhere. So, but my story starts in Anchorage, Alaska, and really on the east side. And really growing up, man, I was a really good kid. I had a 4.0 coming into high school. I was in advanced placement classes. I was the top football player in the state. So really my potential, just like any kid, really, mine was a little more visible because I was the best football player. So you're thinking like, oh, this kid's gonna be something, because you get to see it on the field and the court. But that's where my potential was seen and realized. And coming in leaving high school about my senior year, that's when it started to take a little bit of turn for the worse. And that's where that's what's linking me to you, and that's where my story really takes a turn, and that's where Hardaway Learning was born.
For sure. And I love that name too, Hardaway Learning. I love the name of your
Yeah.
page. So, okay, so you're in high school and you're playing football. I could totally see you as a football player too. So, was it just like everybody was doing drugs and you started like partying with them and got carried away?
So I like to tell this version of how it started getting carried away, because people it helps when there's different perspectives of how addiction begins. So you got trauma, you got abuse, maybe hereditary, things like that. For me, it was different. So coming into around I was still the nerdy kid. I had the afro, I had a 4.0. And I remember my freshman year, I made some new friends towards the end. Coming into sophomore year, that whole sophomore year, leading into sophomore year, I was hanging out with my new friends. They were good ball players. I was playing with them. I was getting better at sports. I grew like 4 inches. I cut my dorky afro off. I got some hand-me-down clothes, and I'm coming in the set, and I'm getting the varsity bump. And here we go. I'm 6'4" now, and I'm the next guy up. So what ended up happening was, the more popular I became, the better I got at sports, the more my name grew, this ego started to develop within me. And I think, so I mentioned the trauma, the abuse, whatever, I think that's what it was for me. It was this ego. And then so the ego is taking you away from who you are truly. Like, and the more it grows, the further away you're getting from who you truly are, which for me could have been that 4.0 GPA, nerdy, smart kid. But so as this ego grew, I was getting pulled further and further away from who I truly was. And then you're just drinking, you're experimenting with drinking, and that's where it started for me in high school. But then you have that invincibility in your mind, like, no, I'm the best I'm the best football player, I'm the best basketball player. Like, it, alcoholism, like, it doesn't matter to me. It didn't, like, you're not seeing no chinks in your armor. So, and I did enjoy how the alcohol gave me a fluidity to my spirit. It made me a little more fun, a little more charismatic. And so that's where it really started with me. It wasn't it wasn't people doing drugs and everything. It was regular high school, partying on the weekend, this and that, just like the regular kid. But that's where it started for me about junior year, into senior year. That's when I started drinking. And I liked how it made me feel. So I would like to want to feel that more. So I kept drinking, and you don't know really realize what's happening at the time, but that's where it really started for me. That just a regular typical drinking, but
Yeah.
turned into something else.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I love the way that you put that, like the ego, right? Because as
Yeah.
kids, man, we just think that we're invincible. We just
Yeah.
think we're like having fun and we're partying and life is great, right? And then we're going to
Yeah.
just grow up one day and everything's going to be great. But that is not how it worked for me. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, when did you realize that you were having a problem? Like, did you start using drugs as well?
So this is what happened. So I was telling you, I had this ego develop. You also don't have the father figure, and I don't really I don't really put too much emphasis on that because everyone's going to grow up with different circumstances. That was one of mine. I didn't have like a real male role model. Do I look back and say that could have changed some things? Sure. But still, there's single mother parents that get their kids to where they're trying to get all the time. So that's so essentially, as I'm developing this ego, heading into my senior year, I'm the top athlete. You know, what am I learning from? I'm learning from the hustler down the street that got the nice car. I'm listening to the music, and this is who I want to be. I want to be Gucci Mane and Cameron, and that's how I'm feeling. And you don't have nobody to steer you in the right direction. Like, no, dude, you have a future. You're smart. You got skills at this football. Focus on that. But I didn't have no one to tell me that. So in my senior year, I'm the best football player in the state. Selling drugs on the side. I'm showing up to school with a gun in my glove box for no reason because I'm not really even. But you're trying to be. I was essentially a wannabe. Like, I was trying to be that, and I was being a wannabe. But you don't have no correct. You don't have no one to correct you. So you're gonna have to end up learning the hard way. So my senior year, I'm trying to be the tough guy. Trying to be someone I'm not, and I get in a fight on the basketball court, get kicked off the team. Couple months later, I get in trouble riding around with a group of kids, and they actually one of them gets out the car and robs somebody. So I caught my first felony. It's all over the news. East High basketball star, blah, blah, blah. So I catch my first felony, get expelled from school, lose all my college scholarships, and I end up getting put on house arrest for a year for the robbery I mentioned at 18 years old. And that time on house arrest, I'm bored, and I literally drank every single day for about It went from drinking 1 day to 2 days. About 2 months in, I was drinking every single day for like 4 months. So that was the birth of my addiction. Addictive nature was on that house arrest, serving that time for that first little incident I got into. Was drunk for 4 months, straight alcoholism, and that was the that was where my addictive nature started right there.
Mhm. Yeah, I relate to a lot of what you're saying. And I know this is going to sound silly, but when I was in high school, I played basketball. And I say it sounds silly because I'm only 5'2", right? But I got kicked off the team for smoking cigarettes. And I couldn't even imagine like being in your shoes, like all-star, like on the
Yeah,
varsity team, like how much more that would have impacted you. But,
yeah,
when it happened to me, like I felt so lost, and that's really like where my addiction started as well. So I can just imagine like
yeah,
all of that stuff that you were saying, like your ego, like all of this identity that you had was just like
yeah,
ripped away from you then, so I can imagine that
yeah.
it would have been really tough. And alcohol was the solution, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly was the case. That was exactly the case, and that's where the ego came into play. Like you're thinking, "Bro, I'm 18. My favorite uncle was an alcoholic, homeless, and all the whole nine." And you're thinking, "That's an alcoholic." Like I never considered being an alcoholic, even when I was drunk for 4 months straight. What you mean? Like it's just. But that's exactly where it started. So that was the first. That was my 18th year. Was a rough one.
Yes, especially your 18th year, right? Like,
Yeah. But man, you don't know what's going on. You're kind
yeah.
of bumping your head against the wall. That's how I had to learn. Like,
Hmm. Yeah. So what happened after you got off of house arrest?
so after the house arrest, now we're talking. So I end up getting caught drinking finally because I show up to like the house arrest center or whatever to take my UA, and I'm smelling like booze, and like, dude, you're 18, you're still drunk from the night before. So they end up locking me up. So then I go do my first prison time at 18. So this is all 18 years old. I finish my house arrest and in prison. I get out and I'm 19, and I'm just thinking like, not really thinking, not consciously, but you're I'm looking back realizing like I'm on probation. So the football and the athletics, the college, that's out the window. And so what did I do? I didn't have no other options. I had no like tools, no way to consciously rebuild my character, wasn't even self-aware. So I literally leaned into the streets, and that wannabe I was telling you I wanted, that I was trying to be, I ended up becoming that, and I leaned into that street mentality and started hustling, and it just continued to spiral after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up too, because I remember growing up and listening to music and, I listened to a lot of rap music when I was younger and you hear about like the game and the chase and the
Yeah,
lifestyle and it's so glamorized, and growing up when you hear that, you want to live that lifestyle
yeah,
that you're listening to, and you're just so into it when you're listening to the music, but really like you don't hear about the consequences of that
yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not the rappers to blame. It's not, they're just making their art, they're making their living. I love rap, still listening to it. So it's different now. It's not like I hear it now and want to go do it. But as a kid, with no guidance and no father, you're just kind of lost, and you're gonna go off of what you hear and what you see. So, and that's what I was doing. So, and along with the hustle and things like that, that's where I was getting introduced to cocaine and the ecstasy, and that's where the harder drugs started to get incorporated into my life, and that's where the more lines started to get crossed.
Mhm. Yeah, so what did that look like for you? I mean, if you're out there hustling, then you picked up the drugs too, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was just, I mean, everybody that I was hustling with, my friends, my comrades, whatever you want to call them, they would just do the coke just as party is. Again, it was just partying. That's how we looked at it. But so I don't know what if it was if some of my friends would look at it like this now, or if I was just the one taking it to the furthest extent. But it started with the ecstasy, just partying, going to parties, but then I'm looking back and I'm thinking, man, it'll go a whole week eating them every day, go to work, eating them, like, and it's like, I know now that I know more about addiction, like that's like addiction to the T. But the ecstasy was short-lived. But my first, I have a few content uh playlists where I list my top drug addictions, like from least to most detrimental, if there is such thing. But and cocaine was my number two, because I never really got into the weed, but the cocaine, that was my gateway drug to the harder drugs for sure. Because that one, it was acceptable at parties. You know, the kids, people my age were willing to do it, and it was at the party, it was everywhere. But I was doing it at the party, and I was doing it at home, I was doing it at the trap house, I was doing it every day, and that was where a real addiction was born, with one of those harder drugs, which was powder cocaine. And that was about almost like a year span of using that almost every day.
Wow. Yeah, and I definitely went through a lot of years of using that as well, and I thought it was okay, like, as long as I was just doing powder, right? Until eventually I
Yeah,
wasn't doing powder anymore, I was smoking rocks,
yeah.
you know?
Amen. Been there.
So so when do you think during this time, like, you never thought you had a problem at this time?
No, not once. Not
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, that's
There
and
was
so
and just no self-awareness, none.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. It took a long, long time before I
Yeah,
realized that I was an addict. Like, I always thought I could just stop whenever I wanted to, like, I just didn't want to, you know?
yeah. That's what I was telling myself too. Like, I could stop this whenever, but what I mean. I'm just doing me. I'm just, I don't want to exactly, but
Mhm.
then you
Yeah,
then you even lose that. Then you even end up losing that, and you just don't even care anymore. You just. So I've
yeah.
been, yeah.
So tell me about some of the darker places that it took you. Like, I mean, obviously, like it went from doing powder, and you said that that was the gateway, right? And I can relate to that as well because powder was the first thing that I tried before I tried everything else. So, how did that escalate from there? And like, what did some of the darker times look like during those days?
Of the powder, or just.
When it escalated. So once
So,
you like switched
uh,
to whatever the next thing was, like,
so
what did that look like?
this is a span from 18 to about 22. I always say this stat. I give this stat out. It's on the back of my book. It's on 14 years. I spent every single day as an addict, or a drug addict, an alcoholic, or inmate. And people will look at that like, how? Well, you're an alcoholic at 18, never had the alcohol under control. At 19, you're doing coke pretty much every day, and I'm in and out of jail constantly. So this goes on for 18 to 21. So there's your 3 years right there. If I could dig around, I might be able to find a couple months, couple weeks where I stayed out of trouble and stayed not getting high. But kept getting in trouble. I ended up having to do my probation time in prison. So I did about 14 months. So, and then I get out, and here's my chance. This is my chance to get it right. I get out and I'm 22, and as soon as I get out, first thing I do, I'm start drinking, and I'm popping the Xanax, partying. Here we go again. And I finally made a move in my mind, like, I can't go down this road. Like, so there's always that little piece of me that was just like, don't, like, it was just that little bit. I just couldn't fully get it. It was like, you can't go down this road. So I literally packed up everything I had, and I moved to Arizona, and I went to college. And so I'm in Arizona, and I'm living, and Uh, and I'm trying to do the broke kid college thing. And it's just, I'm riding the bus. I got no money. I'm not hustling no more. So I don't have no cash. And I'm living with my aunt and it's sleeping on the couch and it's just tough. I'm used to just going to get fast money, getting drunk and getting high whenever I want. I'm still drinking in Arizona. So that the alcohol picked right back up where it left off. But I'm just trying to get I'm trying to make it happen and I can't. So I want to come back. Like I want to get back to the streets. I miss the streets. I miss the money. I miss the partying all the time. So and I seen my opportunity. My one of my favorite uncle I was mentioning, he passed away,
Mhm.
and I told my cousin, hey, I got to come to the funeral. Buy me a ticket. He's like, you need a round trip. I said, no, I'm gonna get the ticket back. I'll get the ticket back myself. Just buy me a one way. I'll get it back. All right. Had zero intention on coming back. I could not wait to just get back to Anchorage and get back to the hustle and all that. And I get back, go to the funeral. Within a week, caught another felony, and now I'm stuck sitting here on house arrest. And then I'm doing bad, getting high on house arrest and everything. And this is probably this is my absolute darkest moment that I ever went through, was when I eventually got the ankle monitor off and was planning on skipping bail for that felony that I caught. I was gonna go on the run and I get a room at the Motel 6, and me and one of my good friends were just hanging out, and we're getting drunk, snorting coke. Same, this is not out of the ordinary. Unfortunately, at that age, how I was living, that was not out of the ordinary. And there's a gun in the room again, nothing out of the ordinary. And we're rapping the music and he's waving the gun around and he accidentally shoots himself in the head and he kills
Oh,
himself in the hotel. It's just me and him. And that I go to the interrogation room and go through the process, crying and devastated. Worst day of my life, obviously, understandably. And that was the first day that I went back. As soon as I got out the interrogation room, 20 hours, crying, distraught, lost a good friend. The only drug that I had at the time was heroin because I was selling it at the time. And that was the first time that I really got high on heroin. And I ended up, you know, that's where my heroin addiction birth began right there.
wow. I'm so sorry to hear about your friend. I can not even imagine how traumatic that would be to be right there when that happened.
Yeah. So
So what
that
did
was
it feel? Go ahead.
no, I was just that was the turning point. That was that was the end of like the innocence, you know, the excuse of like I'm just partying, I'm just, you know, that
Mhm.
was the day when it really turned for, you know, really for the worse. I mean, that was all a spiral continuation, but that was the birth of my heroin addiction, and that took me in a completely different direction.
Right. And it's such an escape, right? It probably
Yeah,
filled the exact need that you were looking for in that moment.
the crazy thing is, people say like it was the weirdest moment because I'm telling myself this is real. Like what I'm telling myself is I'll just do it for 2 months. For some reason, that was the figure that was in my head. That was what I was telling myself, was like, I don't want to think about this right now. And I don't want people to ever think that I'm blaming a situation or coming up with an excuse. Like, you're handling it wrong. There's no question about it. Like I'm handling it wrong. That was always my escape. Don't deal with it, get high and run from it. That's what I did. Like even things not as severe as this, that's how I handled it. So it was no different. I call it my solution two-step. Like I get high, I run from it. That's what I did. Like that's what I did to every problem that I ever had. And this was no different. It just so happened that that was the only drug I could get my hands on. And I made the decision. 2 months and then I'll quit. But we all know heroin, it does not work like that.
No, it does not. No, but I like what you just said though, because I believe that when we were using, like, that filled a need. There was something that it helped with at that time. Like, it was the solution in the beginning. Like you said, like you were trying to run from, you were running from your trying to escape, and it did that. So at that time, like, it worked until it didn't work, because I think eventually what happens is you get to a point in time where it doesn't
Yeah.
feel
Oh,
that need
most
anymore.
definitely. Oh, most definitely. Somebody left a comment on one of my you know videos and said, "Why not just smoke weed? Why heroin?" I said, I'm like, well, I never really smoked weed, but heroin is like a real emotional suppressor. Like it suppresses your emotions and your awareness, your consciousness to the point where like these things that are weighing on you, which everything, my even back to like the high school, like my potential, the self-esteem is lowering constantly, and the worry, all the depression, they're all getting suppressed by this drug. And that's what it and I end up leaning into that because it was starting to weigh on me at around 22, going from this kid with all this potential. And it's Anchorage is a small town, so like my name just off of the sports aspect, we all know each other, everyone knows each other. My name was big in that regard because of the sports. So it was like a self-esteem issue, and it's really suppresses your emotional awareness. So that's where the addiction was birthed for me. It wasn't necessarily the physical feeling of it, but it was what it did to suppress like the feelings of me letting my family down and ruining my future, all these that thoughts that weigh on you. They really eliminated those from being on the front of my conscious.
Mm. Yeah, it's the great escape. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. I remember feeling exactly the same. Not
Yeah.
feeling. That's the thing. Like, not
Yeah, not
feeling.
feeling, yeah, you're just yeah, it's hard to explain really, but it's like that's exactly what it is. It changes you so drastically. It's like you're almost not human almost.
Right, exactly. So tell me what happened like at the end of that 2 months. Like, did you actually try to quit at the end of
Oh
the 2
no,
months?
I forgot about that. And I remember it was like it was I remember too, like we were talking 4 or 5, 6 months in. So, I was hustling at the time. Like I said, I was hustling. And so I never ran out of it. I remember, whatever happened, the plug or whatever, it didn't pick up and I didn't have none, and I'm like, man, I'm feeling kind of weird, man. Like, what I'm saying? First time in months. So I'm thinking, I'm like talking to the dude or what, talking to some dude or something. Like, man, I'm feeling weird, man. I feel like shit. He's like, you're dope sick. I'm like, nah, I'm not thinking I'm an addict or nothing. Like, it's not even crossing my mind. He's like, bro, I'm telling you, you're dope sick. And that was like the moment where I realized, like, oh shit. Oh snap, like this didn't go the way I thought.
Yeah. So what happened? Did you decide that you just had to like never be dope sick again?
Yeah, like it's I feel for that kid that I was when I was
Mhm.
going through this, because you have no self-awareness. Like I had no drive, and I was like the ultimate like effort person. And that mentality just digs the hole so deeper. And every step I took was in the wrong direction because of the mentality. I didn't try to separate myself from the path ever. I just kept leaning into it. So I didn't, there wasn't like a time where I sat and was like, damn, I'm dope sick. I don't want to be dope sick no more. It was a 30-second like, oh shit, oh well, type deal. Like, and it's crazy to think like you could live your life like that, but that's the path my life took
Mhm.
me on. It was that mentality, that effort mentality. It's like, and so I can't recall exactly what I was thinking, but I remember when I was like, damn, but I just didn't care. I had nothing to care about. I didn't, I don't know what I was missing as far as a vision to separate myself from the destruction I was causing my life, but I didn't have it. I was on the run. I couldn't get a job. It was no option. So I was leaning into
Mhm.
that. I was leaning into that person that I was becoming. And I was becoming more of that person with every action, every thought, every step. And so I just continue to use, and it's kind of hard. You look at an addicted mind, I try to look back, and you don't even realize, like, you almost think like, what are you thinking? You're not. But how are you not? I don't know. Just not. Like, because
Yeah.
there's yeah, go ahead.
I think it's like survival mode, like just from
Yeah,
listening to you, like you were just straight up trying to survive. Like you couldn't go to work. It was a
yeah,
matter of time before the police picked you up. You were dope sick. I
yeah,
mean, what else were you going to do but continue to use? Like we just become very animalistic when we're in our addiction. We
yeah.
just continue to do the only thing that we know how to do, which is
Exactly.
continue to go in our addiction.
That's it. That's it. That's pretty much what it was. It's like you just continue to do the only thing that you know. It's like it's a habit, it's an addiction, it's a routine, and you're just continuing. It's continuing. The problem is it's negative steps. So it's going the wrong way.
Yes, it is. So how much longer did you continue to use before eventually like all of this caught up to you?
So this is about two, this is about, so I told you the 14-year span. So this is about 22 when this starts, 22, 23 when this starts. This goes on for about 2.5 years. I'm at, I am, the meth came in as well, but that was like a tag along to the heroin. It was just, and that came about just like, bro, I'm already doing heroin. What does it matter? So I'm willing to do. It's too late. The lines have been crossed too many times, so it didn't matter. So I'm addicted to them both at the time. And I'll tell you this story. This is I've had some low moments, but this was my number one rock bottom moment of all time. This is about 2.5 years in of this same run, and I'm on the run. And obviously my brother's been worried about me, so I move into his house kind of like to. I told him I'm sober, and it was kind of like to see I'm next to you. I'm sober, like, even though I was lying and I wasn't. So I ended up. So I'm staying with my brother, and I'm living in his garage, and I'm sleeping on. And this is the lowest point of my addiction. We're going for 2 months. Dope sick 3 to 5 days out of the days or whatever. Like barely maintaining, not maintaining the addiction at all. And that's a low point to be, because you have no hustle, you have no income or nothing. So I'm struggling to maintain my addiction, and I'm dope sick 3 to 5 days out the week. And and I remember I'm sleeping on this floor, on the concrete floor, on just a straight foam mattress in the garage. And this particular night, I'm dope sick, and I just had like ripped off one of my good friends, which is a line I was actually pretty good at not crossing. So he's calling me, I'm ignoring him. Dope sick, I don't have the money no more, and it's just bad. So the only thing I could do is go to sleep. And this night there was a big rainstorm, and I'm living in the garage, and apparently I left the garage door cracked just a little bit, and there was like this big stream of rainwater that just seeped under the garage door and straight into the foam mattress that I was sleeping in. I just woke up in the middle of the night, the whole foam mattress soaking wet, freezing cold, dope sick, and I just sat up and I started bawling, crying my eyes out. That was the lowest moment of my entire life. And that day, I literally walked from my brother's house downtown to the jail, and I sat and I went up to the counter and told them, listen, I got a warrant, like, and I've been on the run, and I just sat in the waiting area of the jail and waited for an APD officer to come arrest me just to turn myself in, because I literally could not take it no more. That was the lowest moment in my life, and that's how that 2.5 year run ended.
Yeah, I remember I relate to that. I mean, not exactly that, but I relate to being freezing cold, dope sick, like every day, like you don't have money to get dope, like towards the end, you don't have money to
Yeah,
get dope anymore.
yeah,
Every once in a while, you might catch a 20, get well,
yeah,
and then be dope sick again. And it's just like the
yeah,
struggle in the end.
yeah,
So, okay, I want to ask you a question. So you turn yourself in, which I just want to say that that takes a lot of
yeah.
strength to do
Oh
that.
yeah,
So I commend you for that because I never would have turned
yeah.
myself in.
I know. Like, against all criminal instincts, I turned myself in. Like,
Right.
but that's why I was telling you, I had that little part of me that was just like, you can do it, you can do it. So I turned myself in because I'm thinking, I'll go to jail, I'll get clean, and we'll change. You can do it. So that was the plan, but you don't really have a plan. You're just that's that's why it's important. Like, that's why I'm at where I'm at now, because of what I actually did in the last prison sentence, as opposed to the one that I just told you about. It's different. Like, there's things you can do to change the way you think that will change the way you act. Like, I just turned myself in. I think I'm going to sit there and, withdraw for 7 days or whatever. And boom, I'll get up and get out in a year and I'll be good. No, there's more to it. There's work you have to do. So I essentially just turned myself in, did what, year and a half or something, about a year, just sat there, sat there, waited to get out, thought it was going to be all gravy, but it's the story didn't end there.
Well, I think a lot of us have this misconception though, right? Like we think that when we stop using drugs, everything's going to get better. But
Yeah,
we have to realize like what really needs to get better is our thinking because that
yeah,
is the problem.
I
Okay.
know that. Yeah, exactly.
So you did a year and a half. So I'm guessing that this next one's got to be like your last run. It's got to be getting to that point, right? Because
Yeah.
so what
So
happened when you got out?
so this is it. This is the one. This is the so here we go for like 2 weeks. We can throw 2 weeks into that 14 years, because I remember, I didn't do no work. I didn't read no books. I didn't learn no tools. I didn't do anything. I was just waiting to get out, and I ended up getting out. First thing I do right off the bat, I homeboy picks me up and we get drunk. It's 10 a.m. I'm fresh out the halfway house, and I'm like, not even thinking nothing of it. But it's like, in the back of my mind, this is the problem. In the back of my mind, I remember it was about, I think I did 12, it was a year or something, 14 months. In the back of my mind, I remember like that, when I get out, I'm gonna I'm gonna do it this way this time. The addiction caught me off guard this time. This time I'm gonna do it this way. So I'm sitting here talking to the family, mom, whatever. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay good this time. In the back of my mind, all right, I still had that seed planted. I'm gonna do it this way this time. And I really needed that. I needed me to come up with that big of an asinine plan, get out and see it fail so miserably, to really, it was it was a real humbling realization after I got out, about 2 weeks drinking, whatever, and I end up relapsing on heroin, and here we go again. This time it was a little different. I was able to keep my hustle stronger a little bit. It was, you know, kept it under wraps a little bit longer. But as you know, it's only so long. So it's the same thing, running around, meth, heroin, for another 2 year span. And before you know it, I'm literally rapidly approaching this rock bottom moment that I just relived, that I just lived through. And so, and that's, and I just, it was a different experience this time, because it was that ego, that invincibility really had started to leave. Like the belief that I can do it, that you can do it. No, you're still that guy. All that belief and those type of things was starting to leave. Like I was losing a little hope. I was starting to feel more defeated. My confidence in myself, I really started to feel a little bit weaker, like inner strength, opposite, like inner weakness. It started to weigh on me a little bit more that second time around. It was a lot more humbling when it started to unravel.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember being humbled in the end of my addiction, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Ever.
Hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. So what did that look like at the end? Like, what was your rock bottom moment?
So this is it. So this is coming around the corner here. We're going to like same thing. This time I'm living in my mom's garage. 27, 27, 20, 27 at the time. And here we are at the same point that I believe you're gonna reach, like where you're just dope sick 3 to 5 times out the week. You're trying to scrape together, trying to figure it out. Same point. And one of my proudest moments is that, like, we're so in Alaska, we're woefully like under, we don't have enough beds for like alternative treatment. Like you're either going to jail or you have your insurance, like you got to pay a bunch of money. So we don't have like a lot, like we need some detox facilities and Medicaid covered treatment facilities. I haven't done too much research, but I remember at this time we only had like one detox facility that would accept people straight off the streets, low income or Medicaid. And I didn't have Medicaid, and so I'm dope sick every day, whatever. And I sign up for the waiting list. Waiting list, took about a month and a half. Who knows where that person could be at in a month and a half, but you got to call up every day and say, yeah, I still want my spot. And I used to walk up to the job center, blistering cold, 3 to 5 times, whatever, 3 or 4 times, just to fill out the applications to get on Medicaid so I could get into the facility. And finally, I got the call and they said, "Hey man, you can come in." And that was that move for me that I was really proud of myself. I went to the detox facility and I stuck it out and I got out and I got the Vivitrol shot. And so eh, before the rock bottom, before the rock bottom moment, in my mind, I'm thinking, I got to get clean and I need some money. So of course you need a shortcut. I need a shortcut. What's the shortcut? 7-day detox. Okay. I do the 7-day detox. And then, so we need some money. How are we going to get some money in here? Here we go. We need another shortcut. So this is where, the apex of it. And about 2 days after I get out of the detox facility, I end up robbing the bank. Yeah.
Oh man. So
So
obviously, like they caught you, right? Because I don't think you get away with robbing a bank these days.
it wasn't. So it was the note variation type deal,
Hmm.
and I ended up getting away with it for about 3 weeks or so. But
Wow.
this is this is the moment, like, that changed my life and that I
Hmm.
want to share with people across the world, because that's what it's about for me. I sat there at a rock bottom moment, and I came up with this plan. I said, I get clean and I get some money, my life will be fixed. I will fix my life if I do this. 100% convinced. And You couldn't tell me otherwise. So I have this plan, and it took every bit of little will I had, every bit of discipline I had to go do that 7-day detox. It took every single bit of gangster I ever had in my life, I ever worked on, been working on it forever to commit that crime. But there wasn't a single second after I pulled off this plan, I just like magnificent plan I had in my mind. There wasn't a single second where I felt like my life got any better. Not one. I didn't never felt excited, never felt redeemed, never nothing. And as soon as the money started to go away, I'm losing the money, gambling it, getting high off whatever I can, still, because I didn't stay clean, obviously. you know, I was still doing meth, and as soon as the shot wore off, I started using again. So that's why I had this plan, but there were negative steps, so they're
Mm.
taking me the wrong way. So there was never no reality where this was going to fix my life. I know that now, but so as the Vivitrol wore off, and now I'm getting high on heroin again, and I got no money left. And that was that moment for me where I sat down and I was like, I'm done. Like, that was all I had in my mind. That was the best plan I could come up with, the best plan I ever had, the most well executed plan I ever put together in my life, and it did not work. And I literally thought that I had nothing left to give life, and I was just waking up every day trying to figure out a way. All right, I'll commit suicide tonight. All right, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it in the morning. No, I'll do it a little later, and that's where I sat like that for a couple weeks, and thank God that I was able to keep telling myself, do it tonight. We'll do it in the morning, before I ended up, getting told on or whatever and getting arrested for that crime, which was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Literally saved and changed my life.
Wow, that is incredible. I mean, what an incredible story. It's like the pinnacle of everything that you thought would fix all of your problems, right? Like, I'm just going to rob this bank. I got everything figured out, and you even executed the plan,
Yeah,
but it still didn't fix the problem. And I just love that you share that, because
yeah,
sometimes the easy way isn't the best way. It's not the right way. And even afterwards, like from what I heard, like you just felt empty after that. It
yeah,
didn't fulfill you the way that you were looking for it to fulfill you.
exactly. And that's why it leaves me torn, because it's such a severe and almost heinous crime. Like, I'm so ashamed of it. I can't take it back. I can't take it back, but it is part of my story. But it's just it's about the negative steps in the wrong direction. So it doesn't matter what you think. Like, it doesn't matter if you think it's gonna fix your life. It doesn't really have it's not going to. Like, there was no chance for that. I don't care what how much money it was, whatever. It was never had a chance to fix my life. And that goes all the way back to 18 years old, when I was starting to hustle, starting to try new drugs. Like, whatever I was looking for, I didn't have a chance to find it, and that's what Hardaway Learning is about. Like, I had to learn this the hard way. We're talking years, decade plus, and you finally get to a point where you think you got it. All right, this is gonna do it, and it doesn't, and it left me empty, and to the point where I literally gave up on myself. And that's the one part of my story that could give me chills, is when I could put myself back in that actual moment, that I when I after the bank, after the Vivitrol, after the detox, where I really was sitting there in my mind like, I got nothing left. I got nothing left. I'm hopeless, like helpless, hopeless. But the reason why I said that number one rock bottom moment was different. This is my number two, even though this was like the time I had given up and gave up on life and was suicidal was because I was literally made the plan that I would commit suicide, and I knew that that would work. So I knew that I would be out of my misery. So that's why I just had that little bit more of peace than I did the time before, because I had a plan I knew would work. So I was just looking, trying to build up the courage to, to end up doing it, to commit suicide. And thank God I didn't.
Yes. Yes. Thank God you didn't. And just from your story that I've heard tonight, I hope that your hard way of learning will help somebody else to not have to go down that road and make those same mistakes. I'm so glad that you share your story. I really appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
so robbing the bank actually, instead of giving you what you thought you wanted, it completely went the other way and almost took your life. So what intervened that you didn't carry out that plan?
Just the arrest. I ended up getting arrested.
That'd do it.
That'll put a stop to it. So that was I still I don't think I had every plan. Like I sat there and I thought, I wonder who's gonna come to the funeral. I'll do it this way. I'll do it in the bathtub so it won't make a mess. I was thinking that stuff every day. And it's just, this is why, like, I believe in God now. It's because as much as those thoughts were in my head, something just stopped me. All right, do it tomorrow. And thankfully, I ended up getting arrested. First time I ever said that, probably, but but so thankfully I ended up getting arrested, and then I'd have to go. I got arrested and ended up serving the time for this that crime. I ended up getting 56 months for it. So, and that was when it was like, I got there and I got in the jail. Thought my life was over, but I had to try to figure out a way to, like, bounce back. But that's where my change started to happen a little bit longer down the road during this sentence.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm interested to know, like, if you have done prison before, what was different about it this time? Where did those changes start to happen?
This is pretty much, you know, this is everything. This prison sentence is everything that I am today. Like, this is this is the difference between me and who I was, what I learned, what I know, what I share. And the difference, the difference was that I remember when I first got the book and I'm thinking it's over with. It's done deal. I'm getting, 10 plus whatever. And that first my brother came to see me that first day, and I just remember this moment like one of my favorite stories to tell. I'm sitting there, he said, he looks at me and he's like, "You didn't do it though, right?" And I didn't even say nothing. I just broke down crying. And he was just like, and then he told me this one sentence. He was like, "Don't even worry, bro. We still got plans." And I just remember when he told me that, I'm just thinking, for the first time, like, that was just like a little seed of, like, inspiration. Like, I'm thinking, like, what is he talking about? Like, I remember when he told me that, I'm just thinking, like, you know what? Like, we could still have plans. Like, we could still have a future. Plans are in the future. So after that, after I kind of shook it off a little bit, the crazy thing is, but it was just a seed of, like, something in the future. The crazy thing is, I was maintaining a prison addiction. So if you ever see my videos, you'll see, like,
Mhm.
my dates look really odd, because I'll say, uh, you know, uh 4 years, just did 4 years, 2.5 years clean. Like, you mean 4 years clean? 4 years, 4 years, my dates look really odd because I was able to maintain a prison addiction. But so about 2.5 years, 2 years into my 4 year sentence, 2.5 years into my sentence, The thing that actually changed, this is another reason why I believe in God, is because, when COVID-19 happened, the drug trade in jail stopped, and I was sitting in my cell, just staring at the floor, withdrawing. And that was the time when I was in my head, I'm thinking, bro, you're literally about to get out in a year and a half, and you're sitting in prison, dope sick, trading your commissary, the whole nine, selling your stuff just to get high. And I'm just giving myself these harsh criticisms. And for the first time in my life, all that ego stuff out the window. You're on some BS. Like, you have to figure this out. And that was the first time in my life I was stern with myself. I said, you need to change something now. And and I sat there, I accepted that. And the craziest thing is, I just started reading self-help books. Like people will just, how do you do it? How do you do it? I started reading, I started learning again. That's where my start, that's where my change started for me. It was a simple action of starting to learn again. And that's what my book is about. My book is about this process. And it wasn't so much about the learning. It could be learning. Learning is the best way to grow. But it was about me actually digesting something positive and taking a step in the right direction. That's where it started for me, as opposed to the opposite direction. And that's where it all started for me. And that's the difference between me and who I was before. Like, sit around, playing basketball. Okay, cool, fine. It is what it is. Watch TV, do your time, you're not getting in trouble, whatever. But I wasn't growing. I finally made a decision to grow, and that's what changed this time.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm just connecting like from what you said in the beginning, right? Like you were just a young man like looking for some guidance, and then you came to the realization that the answers are within, right? So you started growing, you started reading, you started searching, and you found the guidance that you were looking for. And it's not just reading and learning, it's applying the stuff that you learned
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's just the steps. It's about taking those steps, being open-minded that it can help you. First of all, that's the very first step, key to the ignition. Just think that it could possibly help you. And so you're reading, you're learning. They might suggest a practice, try it out. But what it's doing is, it's you're working from the inside out. So you're changing your character. It's not about changing your number and, you know, not ever seeing those things help too, changing your environment. But if you really want to change, you change from the inside out. That's when people ask me, how'd you do it? I say, bro, because I worked from the inside out for the first time. Like, these books were teaching me about self-love and, energy and raising your frequency. My very first step was, it came out the blue, because my celly, he got mad at me because I'm always been a pessimistic, negative person. And he cussed me out. I don't want your negative energy right now. Blah blah blah. Like, I don't want to hear that pessimistic shit. So I said, damn, I don't want to be the negative guy all the time. So I picked up a book called, wouldn't you believe it, Power of Positive Thinking. And you're sitting here
Mm.
like, how do you work on negative thoughts? Power of Positive Thinking. Duh, like, that's the book. The old me is like, brother, what's that going to teach me? How is it going to help me? But I'm sitting here reading it. That makes sense. So that's like a plus one. It's just a little plus one. That makes sense. Oh, you know what? I could try that. That's another plus one. And then, once you know it, it actually helped me feel more positive. Wow, that's a step in the right direction. So now we go to the second book, you know, Unfuck Yourself. Another good one. I
Yes.
learned some more.
Mm.
So it was progression. It was progression instead of regression, which is easy to do. Regression is it would just spirals out of control. Progression's difficult too, except the fact that I wasn't aware that I was actually changing myself. So it allowed me to detach from the result, and I was just learning. I was just interested, picking things up, and it was changing the way I was thinking. I could feel the result. That's why I try to express people to people. You'll see it, you'll feel it. You got to give it a try though.
Yeah, you will feel it. That's so true.
Yeah,
I love the way that you describe that. So let me
yeah.
ask you this, right? So if you were in prison though with these people that you were using with, right? Because you got to be connected to people in order to use. And now you've changed your mindset and you're like seeking within to grow. How did that work? Did you just like cut these people off or did they still try to get you to use with them?
So that's the thing. So it's that's this is like us all God's plan, like for me, and it's so I had a lot of luck within mine, and I don't want to ever discourage somebody else struggling because they're just like, "Well, bro, you were in prison and this and that, COVID." Yeah, true. Like I did get lucky. You're gonna get some lucky breaks too. Like, it's your opportunity is gonna come too. It doesn't have to look like mine. Like, it don't have to be. You're gonna get your chance too. You know, so I always give myself credit for that. I got up the COVID slowed the drug trade down or whatever, and I sat down and I read some books. I started working out. I started meditating. I started trying to be nice to people. Like these little things that I've never tried to do, they were like changing my character. You're changing your character, you're changing how you perceive everything, you're changing how you thought. That's working from the inside out. So about 2 months of this, I'm telling you, it was like a 2 month span of not getting high. After the withdrawals, about 2 weeks, I didn't even think about it. I was so immersed in these things I was learning, and I was so enthusiastic for the first time. I was feeling different. The working out helped a lot as far as like getting my energy back. And about 2 months go by, and I'm feeling different. Like, and I remember it like it was yesterday. This is my all-time favorite story to tell. The all-time favorite story. I remember I'm walking by one of my old get high buddies, and walk by his cell. I'm walking by him, and he said, "Hey, Skinny," that was my nickname. Hey, come in here real quick. And I'm like, "What's up, bro?" He's like, "You want to get high real quick?" Straight out of reflex, I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm good." I'm laughing. It's like he looks at me crazy because we used to get high all the time in there. Like, what do you mean, bro? You ain't got to pay for it. Come on, man. I'm like, I'm good, bro. Thank you. I thank him. Man, there was a time when I meant it too. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you, man. And I just get back to my cell and I sit down and I'm looking at the out the jail bars to the blue sky, and I'm just and then it took like 90 seconds for it to hit me. I was like, I'm like thinking, what the fuck? Did I just literally turn down free drugs? Like it hit me in the biggest smile I've ever had in my life. I'm like, I can't believe like this shit really works. And that was it. That was the last time I got high. And I've never got high after that. And it just, that was the moment I needed in my life to be like, just out of reflex, just from the person I changed into, I'm not with that no more. And that was the first time in my life where I thought like, I think I got this thing beat, and I never looked back. So I just did more of what I've been doing, kept growing. I wasn't like, it's still with me today. The reflex, bro. No, like, come on now, no. And it just, and so it never, if they were getting high, it didn't matter. I didn't have to cut nobody off or nothing. It just, I love that feeling of putting in the actual work and seeing the results. That's the result that I wanted, was to be able to have that self-control. And that's what motivated me to continue. And that was a good feeling for me. My results were the opposite, negative, like bad results. But I actually put some work in, did put some effort in, some time, and I seen positive results. And that's really what changed my life.
That's awesome. I love that. And I've heard you talk about that before, just when you've been able to just completely say no and you feel like you have been freed from addiction. And I believe that. I believe that for
Yeah.
you. And I think that, it's just this feeling of freedom where you're not held down by this anymore. And it feels so good. And I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean by that feeling. It feels so good.
Yeah.
So how much longer, like, what did you do when you got out of prison? What did that look like?
So after that, I could just continue. I continued to grow, grow and read and started writing, and I get out and I'm feeling like a new man, but it's funny because I'm 31 now. So I'm on Facebook telling people I changed my life, telling the family, this time's different, but nobody really knows, because it's not been the case in the past. And so I'm just at the beginning, what I did not account for was the rush of like, now you're regular again. Like you don't have no drugs oh man, when I first got out, we're talking severe anxiety. Like I did 4 straight years, and they literally you just grab your stuff and you walk out the door and you sit out there, you get a ride to the airport, you hop on a plane, I remember just touching down in Anchorage was like the most anxiety I've ever felt in my life. And that really stuck with me for a very long time. For like months, I was feeling this like anxiety, and it grew into depression. But it's a real small price to pay. Like it never discouraged me to the point. And that's how I knew that things were going to be different this time. Because I mean, there was times when I was sitting in my room crying just because I felt so low. I was like, well, this is not how I'm supposed to feel. I felt like I was like getting cheated almost. Like I was really like resentful because I was like, it's not supposed to be like this. Like I'm not supposed to be overcoming my drug addiction and all these battles and tough things, these losses, mistakes, just to be home, free, sober, and be feeling like shit. So it was like I was really down. I was depressed and anxious, and things weren't going well. But people will tell you, bro, you're doing good. You're doing what you're saying you're gonna do. You're working. You got a good job. You're sober. You're making moves. What's the problem? I'm like, I don't know. And it just took me a while to get reacclimated with society and the regular stresses of real life. And then finally, I want to say is around the time like I started making my content, and I believe that had a lot to do with it, like being able to express and interact with people, and and I started to shake. You still got traces of it, things like that, but it's I'm in a way better spot now than I was when I first got out.
Yeah, definitely. And life on life's terms can be a bitch sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I just want to thank you so much for telling your story. I've
yeah,
really enjoyed listening to your story, and I am just certain that it is going to help somebody. But let
yeah.
me ask you this, whoever's watching this right now, right? Maybe they are like brand new in their recovery journey and they have just experienced failure after failure and they just don't know if they can do it. What would you say to that person?
I always say three things because it's all I can do is tell it from my perspective, like how how I how I view addiction recovery, and like from my lens. Everyone's going to have their own different ways, 12-step treatment, everything. I support every single form of recovery. I do. You know, I support it all. Whatever works for you, whatever works for you. But I always tell them this, like, be careful, or be safe, be careful, be safe, don't worry and stay alive. Like, be safe. Don't worry and be alive and stay alive because your time is going to come. I believe that everyone will have their opportunity to get sober, to realize this future that they've been wanting, all this. I believe that that opportunity will come. If there's anything that you could do in this present moment, you have to find something, just one positive step, whether it's a 20-minute reading habit or 15-minute workout, basic by all measures, barely anything, workout schedule, something. You can actually put these plus ones in your life, these positive gains that will better prepare you for when that opportunity comes, or you can add enough to where you can create that opportunity yourself. I've never been the super willpower guy, the cold turkey drop dead, I'm done right now. That wasn't me. That was never me. But what I was able to do when I got my opportunity was stack these gains progressive by gradual progression. And that's how I ended up changing my mind and getting out of that. So if I could have some advice, don't worry, stay safe and stay alive. Like, your time is gonna come. So, and just know that. And if you want to start with anything, start visualizing yourself outside of addiction. That was another thing that really helped me, was when I can't remember, I think it was Demi Lovato. I seen her on TV and I was just like, damn, like, she been through all this and that, and she's still on TV singing, and and that really was like a spark in my mind when I was like, you know what, like, you can beat this and still live the life of your dreams. Like, there's no like rule book that says, oh, you're an addict and you're done, like it's over with. That's why my least favorite cliche of all time is, once an addict, always an addict. Like, I don't I just don't like that one, because if you use it to keep you on your toes, okay, I could get with that. But I consider myself to be recovered. I'll refer to myself as a recovering addict, but I I, res- I I'm recovered from a drug addiction. Like, that's in my past, but what keeps me going is really the vision of the future. That's why some other opportunities didn't fall through, because I don't do the program. I've never been to treatment, and I don't go to NA meetings, which is what works for me. If those things work for you, I'm with it. Promise you I'm with it. But I keep a vision of the future. I like to even use my imagination, keep thinking of things, thinking of stuff that I can get to in the future, and then I start working towards that. So if you're struggling with addiction, you know, that's an easy tool right there. 10 minutes, just visualize yourself outside of addiction. Then you can start thinking of practical ways to get towards it, towards sobriety.
I love that. That is such a great idea. If you guys are out there right now and you're in your addiction, definitely take that advice, because I believe that that will give you some hope, because change is possible and
Yeah.
your day is going to come just like my day come and Derek's day come. Your day is going to come too. Just keep believing in that,
Yeah.
visualize that. And like you said, stay safe. Say the three one more time.
I said, stay safe, don't worry, and stay alive, because your time is gonna come. It's gonna come.
Yes. I
Promise
love
you.
it. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hardaway Learning, you guys. It's going to be in the description. All of the links to his socials. We are going to post a link to his book. You guys have got to check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching Hope Shot Recovery. We'll see you again soon.
All right.